I'm a big philosophy fan, and I just don't think that animals are rational beings, and I just think that I guess they're lesser than us.
Hi, this is Lucy, and this is?
Will.
Thank you so much for accepting to talk with me today. It's really nice of you. What do you think about the phrase, with great power comes great responsibility?
Well, I guess it's just an accurate phrase that if someone has power, they have to be responsible, right? Responsibility as in like they have power over people, and so like you sort of have to be compassionate and be empathetic in order to like exert power over others to be able to be like a meaningful leader.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean honestly, I don't think it's that deep. Yeah.
So let's go a little bit deeper into that. Would you say that this could apply, for example, between the in the relationship between a pet parent and a pet, like a dog or cat, for example?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, someone depends on you for their livelihood, and so you're the only one who can really help them, and so you have a responsibility to that animal or person or anything. Yeah, and I think as sort of like a communal species, we sort of know when something is suffering or doing well, and so I think you really have to like just be in tune with like the feelings of them and your own feelings, and just try and invest as much as you can, into that meaningful relationship.
So what would be the minimum you would expect from a pet parent towards their pet? Though if you had to say a bare minimum, if you had to go with it, what would you say?
Like as in hours spent, like sort of what metric?
In terms of like what's the minimum that you can do to say like the minimum good treatment towards that pet?
Well, I guess, food, shelter, water is the bare minimum, but I don't know if you're going to get something that really ends up meaning anything to you at the end of the day, which I think is why most people get pets, is so that they can sort of have that bond, Yeah.
So do you eat cows, chickens, etc., or wear leather or wool, for example?
I do, yeah.
All right. Would it be okay if I show you a 3-minute video on the standard practices in animal agriculture?
I think I'm familiar with the standard practices, like on terms of animal harm and things like that. I might have to decline due to time, but I am relatively familiar, yeah.
What have you seen in terms of like footage of, and what do you know about this practice?
I think I've seen quite a bit of footage, like on terms of like caged animals, as well as like chickens. Like when they produce more chickens, the male chicks get like put into like a meat grinder and things like that, and I don't know. I feel like I've seen quite a bit of stuff like that.
You seem to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So all right. So how do you feel about that?
I mean, it's hard to say. Sometimes, in order to really experience, like, it's sort of like a sacrifice, and I think the sacrifice might be necessary. I don't know if they're really rational beings. That's like a deep philosophy question, to see if they're like, if they have a conscience and they think, and they like think the way we do. And so I don't necessarily think that they're like really any different than we are, and eating them might be immoral. But I think in order to like have an effective society, I think until we develop like technology that makes us able to produce food consciously, that tastes good, that's ethical and environmentally friendly, I think it might be the only solution.
So first I'd like to, kind of reverse the roles a little bit. So if you were in the position of, for example, of these chicks that you talked about that are about to be macerated, and let's say they could understand you and they could speak to you, and they asked you, why is this happening to me? And you answered, like basically this answer that you just gave me. What would be your response to that?
Well, I mean, as the chick, I'd probably go, shoot, like there's not much I can do. I'm a chick. But I mean, at the same time, like us humans sort of has the same problem. I mean, I lived in Saudi Arabia for 1.5 years, and there's indentured servants who get their passports taken at the border, and they're forced to work in horrible conditions. And the answer is why? Well, so that their family doesn't starve to death. It's like, it's these horrible questions, but logistically, it's so difficult to just like put an end to something. I just don't think it's logistically feasible. So I guess that's my response. Yeah.
How do you think we can individually help these animals?
Individually, I'd say it's about making small changes. I think in general, like as far as like sustainability and things go, I think we've come a long way in education and like bringing consumer awareness. And so I think consumer awareness will turn people towards a more plant-based diet or whatever that end goal is. As well as making more sustainable practices or more ethical practices, I'd say, for like cage-free animals and things like that. So honestly, probably education. Yeah.
In terms of what we can do at the store, for example.
Yeah.
What can we do apart from educating other people?
I think it really is just a matter of education. Obviously, you can impose government policies, but it might end up like hurting things like farmers and things like that in the short run, and they might not be able to like turn around fast enough. Like there might only have like big corporations be able to actually make the effective switch. So you'd be losing a lot of small business, which I think is less ethical because it'll mean like, it's less ethical overall. So I think like gradual changes mostly happen from education. Like like in places that aren't as developed as us, they aren't, like there are people starving. And when you're starving, you think less about the ethical treatment of animals and you think more about yourself. So as we become a more affluent nation, as we educate each other and ourselves, and people are able to make those decisions as opposed to like, am I going to eat tonight? I think that's going to be the overall solution. That's how it's going to work.
How do you humanely kill someone who doesn't want to die?
How do you humanely kill someone who doesn't want to die? I don't think it's possible. Yeah, I mean, I don't think killing animals is humane either. I mean, you could kill them really fast, but at the end of the day, you're killing them, which is inhumane. Yeah.
Thank you for being honest.
Yeah.
All right. So, what would kind of prevent you from kind of acting this lifestyle up? Because veganism is really the stance of being against exploitation of animals.
Yeah.
What would be preventing you to acting according to that?
So, like, what is preventing me from becoming vegan?
Yes.
Probably access to produce. In Saudi Arabia, there isn't much produce that's like cost effective.
You said you're going back?
No, I now go to Montana State University here in Bozeman. Yeah.
So in terms of like, since you're not necessarily thinking about going back, what would be preventing you here?
Preventing me here, so I eat on campus, and campus produce is not good. I do eat like a lot of like probably most of my diet consists of like beans, rice, and avocado, but then of course I like have to eat like something that'll give me like iron and things like that. So like I'll eat like beef, like spicy beef with it.
There's iron in beans.
Huh?
There's iron in beans.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I try and get my calories in, and so like that's what's holding me back. Yeah.
Okay, so if the roles were reversed, what would you want you to do about this? Like about this issue you're having with the calories and the fact that on campus it's difficult, if you were the animal?
Oh, okay. If I was the animal? I mean, if I was the animal, I would say do whatever it takes, I guess, like stop eating me. Unfortunately, I'm not the animal, so I can't quite get into their mindset. But
the closest you can get, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume they didn't want to die. I mean, that's where all rational fears come from. So, yeah, I mean, you're like, what? They want to get their calories in? Like, that's what matters to them? They'd probably say something like that. Yeah.
I really appreciate your honesty.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So, what do you think you're gonna do moving on from this conversation?
I mean, I will probably end up sticking to my diet. I mean, maybe I'll factor in like a vegetarian day or something for me, like Vegetarian Tuesday. But I don't think for me I'm gonna end up switching to completely um, completely vegan or vegetarian anytime soon.
Why is that?
Um, for me, mostly, like I'm a big philosophy fan, and I just don't think that animals are rational beings, and I think that's the only thing that really divides. Like our own conscious is the only thing that divides us from animals. So like if you don't think and you just act on your own innate desires, that's what makes us animals. But animals don't have that sense where they don't want to act on their innate desires immediately. So I just think it's just a matter of being, you know? And I just think that I guess they're lesser than us. Yeah.
All right. So let's say babies, for example, they're not rational beings, right? And there are some humans that are not rational either. And there's some species of animals that have been,
Yeah.
for example, proved to be rational. Like pigs, for example, can play video games, or cows can solve problems.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
so
does problem solving equal rational though? I mean, like,
what would you define rational?
so rational is the ability to take your own desires. So, like, let's say you lay out all your options, right?
Okay.
And you can say, I'm either going to do this, or this. An animal will say, what is the one that gives me the most dopamine, and they will act on that immediately, or causes me the least amount of pain.
Yeah, but they've done studies with that actually. I don't remember. I think it was they did something with delayed gratification. I think it was with chicks. Okay, don't quote me on that. I'm not sure which animal it was. But anyways, you would have to look into that, I guess, because I'm not exactly sure which one it was. But okay, apart from that, let's say that they're not rational at all, and it's certainty, right?
Yeah. So babies
Humans.
irrational.
So does that mean that the worth of their life is less than the life of other rational humans?
No, definitely not. No, I mean, I think that we end up encouraging ourselves to be rational, and I think humans have the potential for being rational. Sometimes, obviously, there's flukes. Sometimes, but I think the potential is where it lies. If animals have the potential to be rational, then maybe it's different. And if there's studies on them being rational beings and conscious beings, then I might switch to veganism.
Okay, what kind of mindset or belief, for example, justifies exploitation of a group because that group is different than the group of the people that are
So you're
exploiting?
saying like it's sort of like a racism type situation, like the belief that they're different than we are is sort of like yeah. Okay, I understand. That's a pretty good question. I guess in most. Well, in like all other cases, I guess it's sort of wrong. So that's a pretty good point. But
I really appreciate your honesty because
yeah.
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
yeah, no, like I understand like that these are thought-provoking questions. So like some of them I haven't thought about until right now. So like, well, we believe that one race is different than ours. Therefore, we think that they're barbaric, or they talk different than we do, or they act different than we do. And so, I guess maybe as you think more on it, the lines will be blurred between us and animals. But I think until we really can figure out how animals process thought and how these things happen, and how, like, what animals are actually capable of, like as far as, maybe not just dopamine-driven creatures. Then it's then there might be a overall switch to veganism. And I am curious, like, do you like eat insects? Like a grasshopper might be high in protein. Does that also go against veganism?
All right. So, and insects are like they're considered sentient. Most of them. Some of them we don't know for sure, but I'd rather give them the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So
I don't.
yeah, I mean, they're kind of expensive because no one farms them anyway.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I could
also
see
it's
why it would
gross,
be very
but like
logistic.
yeah, but also like just like, I mean, to me, if an animal is moving, it's probably sentient because like pain is to get you away from danger, right?
Yeah.
But that's not scientific. It's just that they're considered sentient, most of them,
Yeah.
and the ones that are not, we're not sure about. I'd rather just give them the benefit of the doubt. You know?
Right. Yeah, I would also say, just as a point that I was thinking about, is societally, it's very easy to not be vegan, because in order to be a vegan, you sort of have to be on top of things, you know. And so like if you you know, you have to figure out vegan recipes, and especially like you have to make sure everything's vegan and sort of like figure out how to like, you almost have to be your own dietitian, you know. For people who are busy or are struggling in any way, shape, or form, like thinking about how to be vegan is probably like the last thing on their to-do list. Like if you're like a single mom of 4 kids, you're probably not like, how am I going to switch to veganism? I think probably over time people will switch to more veganism, and I think not even like just in the Western world, but also like across the world in developing nations and things like that. I think there will be just a general curve to veganism over time.
Have you noticed in the past 10 years, like the amount of new vegan products, for example, to replace the ones we're used to?
I mean, I think it comes with the consumer awareness. Like people are also focused on sustainable things. Even like, it's a little bit challenging because it's almost like a late stage capitalism thing, where it's like some things they'll market as like sustainability friendly and things like that, when really the practices aren't sustainability friendly, but it's just to make you feel good. Yeah. Like it's problematic in a sense, but yeah, recently it's definitely blown up. So apart from Saudi Arabia, because it's hard to get good produce, I've definitely become like way more plant-based than I used to be. Like most of my diet is now not animal products, but it still is in my diet. So even like the lesser consumption of animals still probably helps animals, because it hurts the industry itself, and so like you'll have less animals, whatever, getting chopped up or whatever. But I think it's really neat. Yeah.
It's actually it's very shocking, actually, when you look at the history of this thing, because it's been going on for thousands of years. Actually, it's quite like for as long as we've had written, written documents. Like there's been a discussion about this. You said something that is absolutely true. Like the less demand, the better it is, because it's less animal lives and less animals being exploited. What about these animals though that are being exploited?
That are still exploited? Yes. Well, like, I mean, I guess good things happen over time. Like, you're going to have less and less exploitation until it's all gone, right? And so, like, it's like slavery in North America. You know, the North had less and less demand for slaves because they kept becoming more consumer conscious until we eventually eradicated it, right? It's a good start. Yeah.
All right, so last thing I'm going to basically say is... all right, so because it is difficult as a consumer when we're at the store to remember these things, like because we see packaged meat, we don't see the animal, right? We don't see the eggs, for example, same thing. All right, so at the next time you're at the store, I think it's important to remember that each time you're still buying these products or still like eating whatever, you're still like there's an individual at the other end of that that's been exploited on your behalf, right? And so it makes us think, what does that say about our values if we're paying for that and we're participating in it, right? So thank you so much for your honesty and talking with me. That was awesome.
I really like the mended pants, I'd like to say.
Hi, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and see you in the next video.